And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Right, attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. New York's finest retired filter podcast. How you feeling?
I still feel like shit, but we're here. We'll get through it. No big deal. A little cold. Never stopped us, right? Better than
I don't know about a little cold. This one, it's been a rough, I'd say about a week and a half, but powering through it. What other choice do you have? So I love this thumbnail. The NYPD goes to Hollywood. This is the NYPD. You know what's interesting about this? When we were working under Ray Kelly, which is overwhelming majority of our careers, he really stayed away from the media. They weren't on cops. They weren't on cop shows at the time. If you remember, Kelly really stayed away from it. And now we see with this administration, they took it to the complete opposite spectrum where they are far in the spotlight. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I liked Ray Kelly's style. I did, but I think it was a little stale, and I didn't like it particularly around the time of 2020 when we were just getting brutalized, right? And I was like, where the hell is anybody to say anything about this? Like when this whole anti-police movement started, and it was a lot earlier than, I mean, it really started in 2008, but like it was gradual. It wasn't so in your face. I think 2018, 2019, you really started seeing a lot of it. I mean, I felt it a lot in 2012 with the Blasio's campaign. When he came in 2013, 2014, I noticed a lot of it. But really the height of it in 2020, all that stuff was gradual. It was little changes. But 2020, I'm like, where the hell is anybody? So as much as like I think these guys are losers, I do. I don't think they're a good representative of the job. I'm talking particularly Kaz and Shell here. I kind of like it a little bit. I do, because there needed to be something. It needed to be something that I think we were really the first version of actually pushing back. They're trying to attempt to copy it. But at some point, I think there will be some type of professional media response, professional media coming out of the job itself.
Rich Rod, shout out to you, brother. Coffee and donuts. Here we go. $10. Good morning, everyone. Rich Raj, good morning to you. Good morning, friends and listeners. Good morning on the podcast. Here we go. I think we need balance, right? I think it's great to be in the media in a sense where people get to see what police do. It's action-packed. It's exciting. It incentivizes people to get involved into what's going on with the police department, to know what's going on with their local police department, or just, the iconic NYPD. But there has to be balance. It shouldn't be to the point where it's always the same people in media, and we're always exemplifying the upper echelon. It should be ultimately the overwhelming majority of the media spotlight should be on the rank and file, the boots on the ground who are doing the job every day. It should not be self-serving. That's the problem when it comes to the media right now that we see with John Shell and Kaz Daughtry. It's self-serving. And every time there's an opportunity, they take that opportunity. So it's not necessarily to exemplify the operation that they're doing, but it's to exemplify them, and the operation is more of a byproduct to it. So I think that's what the problem is. Now, with Ray Kelly, I think it was completely to the other opposite side of the spectrum, where the NYPD completely shied away from media. So that has to be balanced. I think it's nice where people get to see what cops do. And again, it's exciting. The cops enjoy it also. But again, I said it's about the cops. And right now, what we see when it comes to media, it's about John Shell and Kaz Daughtry, not about the NYPD. And once we play this, you'll see that yourselves.
Yeah. Jesse James, good morning, lieutenants. So this is what it's like to be retired. I wake up now feeling like a building has been lifted off of me. Wow. Piece of advice, Jesse. Get a routine, brother. Get a routine or get a job. Because the dream ain't there, bro. Who did I hear say it? Peterson. He was talking about retirement, and he's like, the retirement dream. What? You're gonna go sit on the beach? You're gonna drink? How many are you gonna drink margaritas? How many days are you gonna do that for? 2, 3? He goes, and then what are you gonna do with yourself? So definitely get a hobby, get into your routines, get into your health. If you're not working, if you're working, you're already still busy. So, but yeah, being retired's good. I think that's the best part about being on the job. Really, especially now, the way the job has become, the way the stress has become. I think you really see the benefits of it later on when you look at, your friends, your family. I mean, they're looking at you like, why are you retired? You're in your 40s. I still work like a maniac, but nobody cares. The only thing they think of is that I'm retired. And I'm like, I work more than all of you people. I work like 14 hours a day. Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but like, they're like, yeah, but you don't have to. And I'm like, okay, but I do. Like, I'm like, I'm not really retired. There's no such thing as retirement. And I really believe that. Like, I really don't think there really is retirement. You leave the job, but you can't just fully retire,
Yeah, that's why I say it's funny, right? Same thing. I'm going to be 45 years old in January, and people say the same thing, like, "Oh, you're retired already?" Well, it's almost like they associate with the word retirement with pretty much like you're dead, like you're dead already. Like, you're too young. Yeah, I'm retired from my first profession, and I'm on my second path. Juju loves it. My second career here. So, yeah, you listen, you can't be retired to the point that you're sitting around doing nothing. It's nice, right? I mean, we all have this idea that we're laying down on the beach and someone's coming feeding you strawberries. That doesn't last very long. You absolutely, John, you said it well. You need a routine. And that's what I love about the podcast also. It gives us a routine, it gives us significance, gives us purpose. We get up a certain time every day. We have a purpose, a mission, and then of course I have my hobbies. I do jiu-jitsu, I'm traveling, I'm working on my RV. These are my hobbies. So if anything, sometimes I say I don't even know how I had time for a job now before, because I feel like I'm working more now. I'm constantly doing work in my RV and pulling things apart, or we're doing research for the podcast. We're actually doing the podcast. We've become confidants for the rank and file, speaking to cops all day about issues that they have. Speaking of, I just want to mention also, today is December 3rd. So Kenny Victoria from the 4-4 precinct in the Bronx, who was indicted for assault, doing his job, getting someone a legal firearm, actually has a court case today. He has a court appearance today, December 3rd. So please support Kenny Victoria, who is an NYPD cop who did not get the same amenities and nepotism as you see with Lieutenant Nick Stephanopoulos and other people that have ties to nepotism. So support Kenny Victoria.
Agreed. So, all right. Sorry to go off topic a little bit. Juju, I'd love to go further into this topic with you, but just not today. We'll do it again, definitely. I think it's a good topic. We spoke about it yesterday. You should have joined us. You should have been on here. We're not gonna go back onto my lawsuit yet, but we will. We'll speak about it more as the days come, and other lawsuits as well. But yeah, back to what we're talking about, the NYPD going Hollywood. So I gotta admit, I kind of like it. I do. I agree with you, Eric. I think that when we look at how it's being portrayed currently in the media, there's 2 stars, right? And everybody else, yeah, you get a little camera time. It is what it is. But Sleepy Joe says, a camera crew following around a housing post on a fix, it would be funny. Camera crew following around a sector, a housing post, a transit post. I think that's kind of the way to go, and then have an overall spokesperson, because what we hear is, oh, we're showing the work of the men and women, and it's like, you're not, dude. You're not. You're showing. You're like clout chasing. You're showing who you are, your authority, the work that you've done, at the same time trying to paint the mayor in a good light. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you defending the mayor or your actions or your work, but it is when you're not telling the truth. And that's like my biggest issue with them. It's like, yeah, you guys are making 1 million arrests. We get it. You're making 1 million arrests. We get it. You're doing your job. We appreciate it. I think you're stupid when it comes to the car chases. I think it's so dumb. I think the training that you're giving these guys is ridiculous. It's absolutely none. I don't know how they're doing car stops now. They're smacking up cars left and right. They're walking up to cars like, oh yeah, No, everybody sees my khaki pants and they're scared. The training I think is 100% lacking, and then it's constant on that crime's down, and it's a lie. You guys are doing work. It's not your fault. Crime's up. Crime's up. It's not your fault. Nobody's blaming you for the crime, but yet I'm gonna blame you for the crime, and everyone else is gonna blame you for the crime because you're lying to all of us about the crime.
Well, even if this wasn't about John Shell or Kaz Daughtry, and it was just about the khaki pants, that would not be a proper assessment of the job as well. That's not the overwhelming majority. That's not general population. That's supposed to be a specialized unit. So same thing, if there was some type of series about a police agency or military or something exciting, that would just be a segment of it, because that's not the reality. That's not the overwhelming majority. That's not general population. That's a small sect. We said the other day when we did the podcast about the DOI report, they can't account for how many people are actually in the unit, but they can count for 165. So that's 165 actual members of that unit. That's not the overwhelming majority of the police department. That's not even a high percentage. So to actually give the media a true perception of what the police department is, it would be actually followed around general population, which you just said before, the housing post, the sector. These are the men and women, the backbone of the job that actually do the job every day, not a specialized unit. Yeah, the specialized unit's going out there making calls, they're doing their job, but they're just a sect of the job. That's not the entire job, and that's not general population.
Yeah. So the Dr. Phil thing's actually old. I thought it was gonna be a newer one because we seen them on Dr. Phil a while back, right? So this one comes out 6 days ago. I thought it was gonna be the one that they were recently filming, that they were following Shell and Kaz around again, the camera crew. But it wasn't. This is actually older. So the beginning of it starts off, and I recommend you guys watch it. It's on YouTube. For those of you that are on YouTube listening to us or following us or listening to this later on, not on the live, I don't know how this is going to go. We might get pulled down on the copyright on this. I'm not sure. I've done clips before from Dr. Phil and it hasn't. I don't know if he's considered media. Obviously, we play a lot of media clips on here and they never get pulled down. If he's not considered media and this is considered like a copyrighted movie or something of that nature, they're going to obviously remove all the stuff we'll show you. So we highly recommend that you watch Dr. Phil prime time. If you go to it, this is from now 7 days ago, this video. There's about 18,000 views on it, and it's from earlier. So it starts off, they're in the JOC, the Joint Operations Center inside of One Police Plaza. Many of us have worked it before, especially those in the boss rank, right? If you worked for different bureaus, you have to go there. You're a representative for your bureau that day, high-profile events, New Year's Eve, any protests, presidential elections, anything where they're going to need to move around. Mass amounts of people and equipment. Joint Operations Center is open. So it starts off there. They walk Dr. Phil through there. They pay a nice tribute to Officer Jonathan Diller. I thought that was really nice. So that's how it starts. And then about the middle of it, it starts to get to police work, right? It starts to get to police work. So this is the first clip. This is the first clip from the Dr. Phil show. So let's watch that and we'll talk about that.
So like I said, it's great to be in the media to explain what the cops do, for people to actually, real people, to see what real cops do. But this is not what real cops right now. This is your upper echelon of the police department. Would it be fitting? Would it be suitable for them to have a segment with Dr. Phil and then lead into the cops and introduce the cops, but not just khaki pants, actual backbone of the job, not just a specialized unit, but the real cops, the everyday cops of what they do? It should be a mix of everything and exemplify the boots on the ground. But I find this is not about the NYPD. This is about John Shell, and this is about Kaz Daughtry, of them being the stars of the show. And that's the problem. Time and time again, it appears to be staged. It appears to be a photo op. It appears to be a media op. It appears to be self-serving. Those are my thoughts, John. What is your take on them two always being on the spotlight especially with the opportunity to be with Dr. Phil?
I think they're building their profile either for a political run or a career in media after. I think it's clear as day to me that they've been doing that all along. That's not even a thought in my mind. But I think the clip was real funny. When you watch it, I think, it's funny. I don't know if it's just Shell's face. I don't know him that well. But I don't know if it's Shell's face, but every time Kaz talks, it's kind of like he's cringing a little bit, like, ooh, ooh. And so Kaz starts talking about how he's Batman and the cops are shooting things at the cars. And I actually did see where there was one recently where they did apprehend him with it. But it always is about technology, right? Everything falls to technology with Kaz. And then Shell kind of cuts him off there. And then Dr. Phil says, "What happened?" He goes, "Oh, they'll be out before, the perps will be out before the cops are done processing the arrest." And I think that's something that we've all said. I think every single one of us has said it, and I don't disagree with Kaz at all. But you could see Shell jump over him on that one, right? Kind of more media trained. He's like, "Yeah, it depends on the arrest. It depends how many arrests. Why is he doing that? He's defending the district attorneys." Right? Kaz is kind of telling the truth there, and Shell's kind of covering it up, buttering up with the old company line. Nah. It depends on the arrest. But then he goes on further to state, and he gives you the example there. Last year, we've locked up more people than we ever have for stealing cars. That's crazy because we all know that, with the invention of these new chips and all of this other stuff, I want to say since the late 90s, early 2000s, all the way up until recently, stolen cars were never an issue in New York City anymore. I mean, it was almost at a point, it was why do we even have the auto loss in the unit? It was for people stripping cars, taking things out of cars. It wasn't this, we're out on the street jacking cars, either by carjacking or actually stealing cars. And now here we are again in New York City. It's like a version of the 70s, 80s, and 90s where car theft's on the rise. And Shell gives a statistic. Well, we're locking these people up, and only 2.4% of them were actually ever convicted of it. 2.4%. Crazy. So he kind of contradicts himself there, right?
I think that was a great assessment. I think that Kaz doesn't realize that he's in this position of such hierarchy, and he's talking like a cop. He's giving locker room talk, which is exactly the truth, right? We'd all say that. We all said the same thing. Listen, the guy's out before you finish doing your paperwork. We've all said that. But John Shell gives the company answer exactly that, because he knows who he's beckoned to. He's pandering to Mayor Eric Adams. If he gave the same line Kaz Daughtry, Adams would have a problem. So you can see that John Shell, it works out great, right? Kaz is driving, kind of the guy who just shoots off the mouth, kind of speaks the truth. And if John Shell had a fly swatter, I think he would have smacked Kaz Daughtry "Oh, let me talk, buddy." And that's the way it kind of comes off. And John Shell gives kind of the answer he's basically telling you that bail reform caused a problem, but it's not necessarily every caller. It's a case-by-case basis, depending on what the crime is. That's not truthful. There's only a certain few crimes that are the exceptions that someone is held on bail. For the most part, they are arrested and released. VSS Ventura's, shout out to you, Coffee and Donuts, $5. What office would Kaz run for? Ball washer? Fluffer, perhaps? Shell could run for Prime Minister of Golden Corral. He sure looks like he's been to Golden Corral several times. I actually like Golden Corral. But, you got to know when to stop eating the fried chicken. John Shell looks like he had a couple, with that triple fat neck. But the bottom line is he knows how to play the game for the media. John Shell knows how to give Dr. Phil a little bit of what he wants, and also, play it safe with Eric Adams and the New York State government.
Yeah. So it's, like I said, I think that I think, it always reverts back to the company answer with some lines of truth there. Kaz is given the line of truth. I think you're 100% right. I think that if John Shell did that, it would be a big problem, and he knows it. Because like we said about a year ago, John, we all know who the fall guy is, don't we? So here we go. Here's the next clip. Here's the second clip. This is right past that same. Before I go further in that one, what do you think about that statement right there?
I think it's funny how he's trying to sell it. He's selling the encryption, saying that it's to be incognito to protect the police department, right, for safety purposes. And we know that's the furthest thing from the truth. We've been using radios since the 70s, and they were not encrypted. And we've always had channels, talk-to-talk channels where we can remain safe. But especially now in the age of transparency, they should not be encrypted. Listen, the bad guys also see what you're wearing. They see the cars. They know exactly where you're going. They have enough technology to find out where you are. There's apps to listen to the radios to determine where the police are. We had all these types of things. So this is a complete lie. More gaslighting. They're lying right to Dr. Phil's face. But they're lying to sell the company line that these radios are encrypted for their safety. And we know that's the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, not to go into the whole topic of encryption, but I think, I think you're right, and I think what we've seen from this administration is the least transparent administration ever. And I think for officer safety and for public safety, I really believe that there should be a clear path to get that radio. Now, to get the radio transmissions. Now, I'm not saying they need to have it in real time. I don't care if there's a delay, whatever it is. But there needs to be a path for media and everyone to get that. Media, I believe they need to get it in a quicker time than the public for transparency purposes. But I believe there should be a clear path for the public to get that radio transmission. And like, not to bring up yesterday's podcast or my lawsuit, but like when you're looking for discovery for your cases, things that like the NYPD is like, no, that's not accurate. Juju is like, no, what John's saying is absolutely ridiculous and absolutely inflammatory. Okay, there's one easy way to prove it. Release the data. Show us the data. Show us why it's completely inflammatory. And it's the same thing if you are accusing a police officer of something. It's the same thing if you're injured on duty and you're saying that it was the fault of a cop or somebody harmed you or it was the fault of a perpetrator or the incident that you were involved in is not portrayed the way that the job is portraying it or the media or the politicians. You're going to want to get that transmission, and it needs to be there. And I think this is why, again, we go back to why Ray Kelly didn't want these guys speaking is because they're not that smart. Because John Shell just egged on city council without even realizing he egged on city council. And he just now, like, just the fact of us doing this, and this is almost a year ago. Like this appears to be about a year ago now, right? This was a while ago. This conversation was going on. I think this was last winter. I think you're going to see a flurry of more media talking about that. He doesn't believe in transparency.
Shout out to it looks like we got a new friend to listen to the podcast. Patty44. Patty44, how you doing, my brother? I remember when John Shell was a rookie sergeant. He was thin, had a nice head of hair. Time has not been kind to him. That's why we always say this is a young man's job. I'm a firm believer that this is a young man's job, especially if you're in the street. Appearance is everything when it comes to the police department. Appearance is the first step to presence when it comes to the law enforcement profession. And as you get older, we lose muscle mass, we lose hair, we lose the appearance of testosterone, of strength, of masculinity. It's just a reality as we get older. And that's why I say this is a young man's job. If you don't want to retire, okay, fine. God bless you. You love it so much, but you should not be in the public eye. Put someone young and handsome and strong in shape that is a good representation of the police department, a good appearance, or a young, strong, female with poise and distinction, but not these old men that want to, Exactly what you said, John. I'm going to use that line. I like that. Not these old men that want to create their profile because they're seeking out their next venture through the police department, whether it's politics, whether it's media, because this is about them. So you're absolutely right. Listen, we all age, we all lose hair and deteriorate in appearance, but we get better in wisdom. And you should use that wisdom to be behind the scenes to help the cops, right? You got a triple fat neck. No one wants to see a triple fat neck. Let's be honest, okay? Even in UFC, all these awesome fighters, eventually they go behind the scenes or they become commentators, but they're not out there fighting. They know they don't have the same appearance. Same thing applies here.
Yeah, they don't have the same stamina. Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, though, about Kaz driving? Because I think, again, this was last year, so I think he was a little bit more humble last year. So we got to take that into account. But what do you think about that? Like, why was somebody else not driving? Did Kaz want to be driving? It appears John Shell's the lead here. It appears John Shell, in Dr. Phil's eyes, John Shell's the boss. What do you think about that?
It's funny you say that, right? Because if the ties changed and they turned right now, I think John Shell would be driving and Kaz Daughtry would be in the back. But I think at the time, Kaz Daughtry was promoted by Rocket Fuel. He was new to the position. I think he wanted to drive. It puts him in a position that he's actually important and he's part of this media operation. Because if he wasn't driving, why would he be there? He didn't have anything to say. So I think he wanted to do it. It should have been a cop driving, giving a bird's eye view and the experience of what it is from the eyes of a young police officer doing the job of the police department, and then have John Shell or Kaz Daughtry or both sitting in the back and helping him out and say, yeah, listen, what the cop just described, let me give you the background or the law that goes with it, but really let the cop tell the story from the eyes of the cop. But I do believe that Kaz Daughtry still saw himself as boots on the ground and wanted to drive.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go further. I don't even want to go further than that. What do you think? What do you think about that one?
It's hilarious. And listen, John Shell, he's the star of the show. That's the bottom line. He's the star of the show, and that's where it's really bad. He gets the opportunity to tell the story and make it about him. And that's what I see here. It's complete politics. This is absolutely setting him up for the next venture. Maybe getting a job with Dr. Phil. I don't know, but he's definitely put himself out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, he goes on to pull the whole crime is down. We're bringing crime down. Media's anti-police. He painted us, this podcast, to be anti-police, which is ridiculous. He also painted us and had numerous other individuals attempt to paint us as an openly racist platform, which is another ridiculous accusation, because his arguments don't hold up. Because, in fact, crime is not down. Crime is not slowly coming down. Crime is up. I believe we said it's up over 23% since most recent numbers since Eric Adams took office. Violent crime's up. Violent crime continues to rise. The whole narrative that Eric Adams is pushing now, that there's 10 straight months of crime being down. NYPD just did a ton of upgrades, and that is no longer true. Crime is not down 10 straight months in a row. So, and he continues to push that narrative. And because the media is critical, because people have opinions, you're anti-police. That's the case he tries to make. Our media is anti. Are there some anti-police publications? I don't know if they're anti-police as a whole. I will say there's some writers, I think, that have a bias towards police. I've seen that. I've seen that with my own eyes, and that's my own personal opinion. But the more I look at the media from a whole, I don't really see any publication that I would call out as being anti-police. I don't know a publication that I would actually make that status. I know there are people that will harp a lot on Shell and Kaz and this administration, but they've earned it. The allegations, the things that have happened in this police department, surrounding the upper echelon, surrounding Eric Adams' appointment, they've earned it. And he's basically telling you any criticism is anti-police. So, again, he's gaslighting Dr. Phil, and he's lying, saying that crime's down. And the reason that it's not coming down more is because there's no consequences. I believe that the reason that crime isn't coming down is because there's no consequences. I also believe that the NYPD's own policy and the way they go about enforcing, policing, and charging people who are arrested is also another factor in why there's no consequences. I also believe the way the NYPD is training its newer officers is a factor in why crime is not coming down. So, I don't like, this is where I start to, they lose me. This is where I don't like these guys. I'm like, you're a liar. You have no integrity. You're a liar. You guys are doing good work. Not you guys in particular. The rank and file is doing good work. The kids in CRT are doing good work. Are there some bad apples? There's bad apples in every organization. 100%. Root those people out. But overall, crime's up. And you guys are doing record enforcement numbers, and crime is still up. Why is that? It is because of the progressive legislation and policy that's been put in place, and NYPD's adaptation to those rules and silence to those rules.
I don't want to go completely off topic, but we see the line towed when it comes to upper echelon of the police department, and it stems to pandering to Eric Adams, and we see it continue now with the appointment of Jessica Tisch. Nothing has changed. We're back to the same normal program with Jessica Tisch. She's towing the same line. She's gaslighting the public. She's lying to the public. It's been the theme of the upper echelon of the police department, along with the new police commissioner, is that crime is down. Crime is down. It's a complete lie. Juju says it right here. I got to laugh. John, how about you show us your data on crime being up? We show the data here on a constant basis. And John, you know it. You're in constant communication, John Shell talking about, with Sam Antar. Sam Antar has slapped you, has slapped Kaz Daughtry, has slapped the entire upper echelon of the police department, along with the New York City administration, with your own numbers. Your own numbers, Sam Antar has put it out in your face in numerous communications, and you've shut down and you've backed down because Sam Antar utilized your own numbers to show you that crime is significantly up. You'll probably blame it on the assaults on cops. And that is another problem to show why crime is a major problem in this city. Jessica Tisch even further stated, she said, it's funny where she got this line. She said, we don't have a crime problem. She said, we have a recidivist problem. Eric Adams said, we don't have a crime problem. We have a migrant problem. So they're all towing the same line. They're all feeding the same BS that they've received from Eric Adams. They're all talking heads for Eric Adams. I want to see them be their own professionals. Lead the NYPD. Don't lead Eric Adams. Eric Adams will lead you. And that's the problem. They keep pandering to Eric Adams. It's a complete lie. We know crime is significantly up, and you can't deny it. The numbers are there. It's factual. Check out Sam Antar's page, John Shell. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, he knows. And Juju, I'll show you the crime data in a little bit when we're done going through this. We basically show it every day. So we don't have a crime problem. We have a recidivist problem, Jessica Tisch stated recently. And, that stuck in my head, and it's stuck in my head for a reason. And the reason it's stuck in my head is because I watched Eric Adams speak at the press conference in the hospital when Jonathan Diller was killed. And that's what he said. He said, we don't have a crime problem. We have a recidivist problem. We have a dead cop. And this moron is talking about conjecture and whether crime is up or down. We don't have a crime problem. We have a recidivist problem. No, you have both. You have both, and you need to start admitting it. You need to start admitting it. No one's saying it's Eric Adams' fault that crime's up. It's Eric Adams' fault that crime hasn't come down. It's Eric Adams' fault that there are hundreds of thousands of illegals that came to New York City. Yeah, those are your fault, Eric, because you asked for them. Those are your fault. But the fact of crime, you could thank all of the policies you supported and cheered on. You could thank all of the politicians you endorsed and cheered on. You could thank all of it. And now as he looks to reinvent himself, new MAGA Eric, while he's praying for a pardon. He's hoping that the Biden, that Biden will take mercy on him. The Biden of Brooklyn will take mercy on him, give him a pardon, if not Trump. He's working on both of them. He's working both angles like this. He's like, please, please. It was just a few bribes. It was no big deal. And then just forgive me for all the other stuff I did in the last 10 years, just like you did your son Hunter. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, but these guys are lying. Pat Donahue isn't participating in TV while operating a motor vehicle considered distracted driving and subject to VTL enforcement. I would say so. I would feel very comfortable writing that summons and going in court. And I wasn't really a summons guy, but I would feel very comfortable in testifying how they were distracted, how Kaz was completely distracted while driving. What about you, Eric? Do you think so?
I think it's laughable. It's absolutely ridiculous. Again, they want to give this appearance that they're actually doing enforcement, and they're the two guys that are actually the stars of the show. They're the boots on the ground. They want to give the appearance that they're the boots on the ground. They're in all 5 boroughs at the same time. They run every operation. It's all about them. They even drive the cars. They fly the helicopters. It's all about them. These two, I give them more than one summons. I never liked writing summonses at all. I wanted to make a collar, take a bag out of jail. But these two, they deserve summonses.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a tin ticket, too. And then every time Kaz goes on the radio, we know what that one is, right? Can't talk on your phone. You're driving, going on the radio. Because, by the way, it's not for a police necessity. If you're a cop and doing that, there's a reason for it. When you're driving around filming a TV show, there's absolutely no reason for you to lift that radio.
John, let's be honest. If this was about the boots on the ground, if this was about how the NYPD actually operates, why not take one of those young, impressionable police officers, or take someone for general population, or have a sector follow a sector around and say, okay, listen, we'll follow. This is Sector Adam right now, right? Whatever precinct. They're responding to. This is the call that they're responding to. This is the information that had just transmitted from the 911 dispatcher. This is what the cops are responding to. So right now they need to know the location. This is what's going through their minds. This is the information that they're going to ascertain. To me, that would be more about the cops. That would be more about the mission. I could see something like that going, but this is about them. That's where I see the problem. I love the media idea. Give the cops a spotlight. They deserve it. They're the boots on the ground. It's a thankless career. So you know what? Give them an opportunity to have some gratitude and a little excitement. But it's not about them. It's about these two. And they've made it clear. It's about their own self-serving needs. It's about their next venture. And they enjoy it. And that's one thing I'm going to say. These two, they really enjoy it.
Yeah. And Amazing Ant says, the real question should be, why is crime up? They all avoid that. It's true. Well, one, I don't really even think that they could really give you a proper answer. All right. So what do you got on that?
I can tweet and fight crime. That's John Shell. I love it. It's outstanding. Again, this is just about them. Now, I got to be honest. I didn't even watch this yet. But exactly came up what I thought would come up. 5,000 police officers were assaulted. Gives them the opportunity to blame the increase in crime. Amazing Ant, you brought up a great point. They don't talk about the increase in crime. But when they do, and we heard before, we heard from former Chief Michael Kemper, who's now in MTA, usually the blame of the increase in crime has been the assaults on cops. They push it off and they blame the cops. The fact that the cops are being assaulted is the reason for the increase in crime. What John Sheldon should be saying here, and I didn't hear it yet, maybe we'll hear it as we go further into this media tour here, is that there is a system in place. There's social services, all systems that should be utilized to help people to provide them aid. But when someone commits an alleged crime and people are attacked and they have to maintain public safety, by the time the police get involved, it's too late. The mission of the job is to protect people and to maintain order and public safety. And if those social services are not provided to help them, when it comes to the police department, it's too late for the police department to step in with social services. They have to put safety first. And that's what he should be saying here.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I got no issue with this segment at all. I think they both nail it. I think I agree with Shell 100% what he says here, and I think the same for Dr. Phil. Right? We're not, and what they're saying is, oh, we don't need to throw, you're a drug addict. We don't need to throw you in jail. If you turn your life around, you should have the ability to turn your life around. I agree with all that. I got no issue. But Stephen S. brings it home here. He says, when you have no consequences for crime, you get more crime. Crime is not down. Reported crime is down because of how long it takes for PD to respond and not taking reports, as well as the results when you do report crime, right? You're met with resistance from the NYPD. You're met with improper classifications being put on that report. You're unhappy with investigations. So I agree with you, Stephen. I disagree with you on that reported crime is down, though, because reported crime, like I said, is up. If we look even in a narrow window at this point, crime's up again. Every year of Eric Adams' administration, crime has been up. And that will hold true again this year. They may end the year with crime down a small number again, like they did last year. They were celebrating a 0.32% decrease in crime as we ended out 23 into 24 last year. And as they did the upgrades, only a few months later, crime skyrocketed again. And that was all turned out to be all false. And again, when they do those upgrades, they're just doing a small sampling. They're not going through every report or calling back every complainant. So crime is actually much higher. And so reported crime is up. And then the amount of people that are actually reporting crime is actually way down. So that's another factor. So crime's up a lot higher than it's even reported, even though crime's up. And I agree with you. That's the reason crime is up, because there are no consequences. But yeah, that's another factor I don't think ever gets brought into the fray when we talk about crime and reported crime. Would you agree, Eric, that reported crime is actually down? It's not, and I don't mean that the crime numbers are down, but the amount of people that are actually reporting crimes, like when we talk about retail theft, when we talk about minor crimes on New York City streets, and sometimes maybe even robberies and grand larcenies, people just are just done with it, and they're like, I'm not even calling the cops.
Well, there's no doubt about it, right? Even when actually looking at, without looking at data, we can actually just make the assumption, because we have diminished police departments throughout the entire country. So we're specifically talking about the NYPD right now, diminished manpower and in comparison to what we've had before. And the omnipresence that we have in the subway is another indication that we have less manpower that's actually out there responding to 911 service calls. So our reported crime is definitely taking a hit. We have less people respond to these calls. The response time, we've even heard from Lincoln Wrestler, is up to 9 minutes, which is about 2 minutes longer than it was prior. And 2 minutes in the world of policing is a long time. So many people will not stick around to report that crime. And there is an indication, and there's also a byproduct of bail reform that also increases crime. And it goes hand in hand. Because of bail reform, because someone is not sitting in jail awaiting bail, they're out committing more crime. So yes, that does add to crime. But the police department has a role in it also. And you and I always talk about that. What type of intrusive police work are they doing out there that's actually being documented? According to former Chief Michael Kemper, approximately 97% of fare evaders are not being frisked or searched. So we're not actually reporting crime because we're not even investigating crime. They're receiving a summons, or maybe they're just getting discretion and they're on their way. So they're not actually having that intrusive police work encounter with the police department to document a potential crime. And you're absolutely right. When it comes to shoplifting, in most cases, these retail stores are not even contacting the police department. They're utilizing private security. So they're not actually reporting stuff. And with the encryption of radios, that allows, and we could, without even data, that allows crime to be suppressed and to be kept secret and not be reported because of encryption. So we have a diminished department, we have longer response times, and we also have encryption for radios. So this is an opportunity, and it gives an opportunity through transparency to not actually document crimes.
Yeah. So here's the next clip of the show. This is going to weigh in on Shell's tweets.
Not going to sit back.
Eric, you think he's is that true? Do they take rough police or heavy-handed police off the streets?
There's a lot of layers to peel back here what John Shell said. So before I even get into that, I wanted to talk about what John Shell was saying as far as the pissy matches that he was having with journalists were to support the cops. This is the furthest thing from the truth. We have the tweets, and we can pull them up at some point. Maybe not today, but at some point we'll have to get them together. But when John Shell was having pissing matches with journalists such as Harry Siegel, when John Shell was picking on Mike Colon, a journalist from Connecticut, does a great job with his podcast show, who's a huge supporter of cops. And what he forgets to mention, the pissing matches and the attack on this podcast for giving our opinion was not supporting the rank and file. This is a complete manipulation to try to make the cops believe that John and myself and Harry Siegel and Mike Colon were anti-cop and trying to attack the rank and file. Not at all. The attack, I'm sorry, not the attack, but the criticism was to John Shell and Kaz Daughtry. Criticism. The opinionated criticism was to John Shell and Kaz Daughtry, and they went on a full court blitz and a full attack on anyone that attacked their egos. It wasn't about the rank and file. It was about their egos. And to have the audacity to actually say that you take cops off the street that are too aggressive and actually handle them in a proper manner, where were you to support Juan Perez, who took action and he had aggressive control? Someone was trying to choke him. No, you didn't protect him. Instead, you allowed him to get convicted of a misdemeanor assault. But Lieutenant Nick Stephanopoulos, who stomped someone's head, which was completely unnecessary. And I can tell you, I was hands-on. I deployed numerous strikes because out there getting illegal firearms, sometimes it was necessary when someone's trying to hurt you or hurt your cops. And I never stomped on someone's head. But yet, someone in your unit, a leader, a supervisor, and you did nothing about it. And that person's full duty right now, doing business as usual. If anything, they're going to be far worse because you created that monster.
Yeah, unbelievable. I was like, I couldn't even believe when I heard that. I was like, what? I was like, you take it very seriously because you can't be hypocritical. Absolutely hypocritical. And if we show that video over and over again, or you show that video to Dr. Phil, he'd be appalled. He'd be absolutely appalled. Absolutely appalled. And then take that and put it with the Juan Perez case. Put it with you can put it with almost every other use of force case. You know, I forget about it. That video was ridiculous. That video was disgusting. It's disgusting. They really are like that. That makes me mad because they are hypocrites, and you know they don't put people. And yes, people make mistakes, and I agree with that. But if there's a standard, hold the standard, and there is no standard. And they're the reason there's no standard. All right, that's the end of that clip.
All I wish is that Dr. Felt would have said, how did you get promoted? That would have been outstanding. Hey, last year I was a first grade detective. Now I'm the deputy commissioner of operations. I was waiting for Dr. Felt to say, okay, how did that happen? You know, that would have been the perfect question. I'm so curious what his response would have been. I really want. What do you think his response would have been to that? Before we even go ahead.
I have no idea. I mean, remember when he was trying to explain his job, and he went on like 5 interviews in a row, and he never explained it once. So I think it would have been more of the same. It was like, okay, so what is it that you do? I'm like the liaison. You know, I'm like the liaison. I'm like, it's like what? Like what do you do? You don't even know what you do. Eric Adams couldn't even give you a good line what to say. You know,
that was so hilarious. He looked like he was so excited to have that opportunity to talk and narrate what's going on. I mean, it was just so artificial the way he got on the radio. Guys, you gotta make it right. Come on.
I know what they were saying in that call. They're like, what the fuck is he talking about? What is he talking about? Because they're like, he's just going over the radio. He's just going over the radio to go over the radio to look like.
That's all he was doing, showing off the doctors. Guys.
Yeah.
And let me pretend I got to swerve the car to get. I mean, it looks like they already had the collar done. It looks like everything was wrapped up already. Where would they go?
Yeah.
Nikki G.
Oh,
no, go ahead, bro. You read it out. It's all good.
Nikki G, $4.99 to the podcast. Appreciate you, brother. Keep your voices heard, lieutenants. Lots of love and support. Thanks, brother. We appreciate it.
What? You know what? There was something else he said. I can't stop laughing. I forgot already. Something else he said that was pretty funny. I'm trying to think. Did you catch it? I forgot already.
Yeah, I just thought the funniest thing is watching. I couldn't help. I couldn't even because I was laughing watching Shell cringe as he's talking. I don't know if he knows he's doing it, but he's doing it. He's like, he's literally doesn't know what's gonna come out of the kid's mouth. He has no idea what's gonna come out of his mouth, and you could tell he's like, yeah, I don't know.
When he said, "Oh, these guys, they're doing the job again. For 8 years, you couldn't do anything. These guys, they're bringing morale back." Oh my God, that was hilarious. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
No, I don't agree with that at all. What he was saying. For 8 years, we did nothing. No, well, under former Mayor Bill de Blasio, he did create the NCO program, which I thought was completely ineffective. But cops are out there working because during those 8 years, I was doing anti-crime. John, you were doing anti-crime. The best that the job has to offer was out there doing anti-crime, getting guns off the street. If anything, actually, I think we were more effective during those 8 years than we are now. And under Eric Adams.
Yeah, 100%. The department was much more effective under Bill de Blasio. It's crazy. And they did so much damage to the department under that time, and it was still more effective. 100%. I agree with you. And if you did nothing for 8 years, Kaz, why the hell were you a first grade detective? Why'd you get promoted if you were doing nothing? Why'd your boss get promoted if he was doing nothing? Why Shell a chief? If we were doing nothing, how did the promotion process work? How did the discretionary promotion process work? Right? Yeah, obviously you were doing something. I mean, I know we know what you were doing. I mean, but other people were actually doing work. Like we had homicide detectives, ESU detectives, patrol cops, transit cops, housing cops. We had all those people actually doing work and doing their jobs. You had on your white gloves and you were driving people around. So, but you obviously did nothing for the last 8 years. You're doing absolutely nothing now except like making love to yourself. But yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Stephen S., great comments. By the way, great contribution to the podcast. We really appreciate it. Our friend over here. Coffee and donuts at a podcast, $10. Stephen S., shout out to you. We really appreciate it. Stephen S. says it. Real cops are always working, even under the worst of commands. That's absolutely true. That's why Cass statement, I think, absolutely doesn't even hold water. During those 8 years, there was legislation that was enacted, created, that really deteriorated from the law enforcement profession, that brought police officers into this handicap that they have now. Civil liability, criminal liability, the liability that you have from CCRB, city council, yes. But the cops were out there working. I know. I was out there working. The men and women under me were out there doing an exemplary job getting illegal firearms off the street. And if anything, it was harder to get the illegal firearms then than it is now. And I'm not taking away from COT, the khaki pants. They're out there. They're getting a lot of guns. But they're getting a lot of guns because there's a lot of crime. It goes hand in hand. You don't get a lot of guns because there's no crime out there. You need crime out there to actually get these firearms.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so this is the next clip. This is the last clip we got from this show, and then we'll get off this topic. Did you pick up on that?
Well, first of all, it was great. John Shell was trying to shut Kaz Daughtry up, like let me talk, But then he's like, oh, we're battling perception. We want to make people feel safe.
No, but not even that part. The part about the Bronx.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Bronx is bad. No, not like it was years ago. It's so much better than it was years ago. And then he goes back again and he's like, but it's getting bad and the crime's getting bad though now. It's like you just flip-flop 3 times and then he goes, well, we're battling the perception problem 4 times. He changed. Bronx is bad, it's great, it's bad, it's great, it's great, it's great.
He kept contradicting himself. That's why he's been battling the perception versus truth also, because he knows in his head what the truth is and trying to battle the perception. Maybe the appearance of the Bronx, I will say this. I worked in the Bronx almost a decade. I worked there a long time. So the appearance of the Bronx is far better than some of the appearance you would see years ago, less graffiti. But I can tell you right now, the crime is extremely prevalent. And the Bronx is on fire right now. So first of all, John's a Brooklyn guy. So he doesn't even know. Well, the Bronx is on fire, especially the 4-6 precinct. The 4-6 precinct was once known as the most violent square mile in the entire country. 4-6 precinct is always a hotbed for crime right now. It's on fire, especially right now. And shout out to Shublin. He was CO to 4.6. He was also CO 4.1. Actually, a good dude. We worked together. So shout out to you, Shublin. If you see this, brother, be safe out there.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, like I never worked in the Bronx, but I think the Bronx was the last hold in New York City. Right, it never gentrified like Brooklyn did, like Queens did. It just never did. It never grew out like that. It was starting to. I was actually looking at real estate in the Bronx a few years back, and then De Blasio killed that. I was like, yeah, this is going to be this is the last place where you could get property reasonable. Where it has the opportunity to still grow, like it happened in downtown Brooklyn and all over the rest of New York City. And I think those days are gone. I want nothing to do with it. I want absolutely nothing to do with it. So I think from me looking out from an outsider perspective of the Bronx, is it better than it was in the 70s, 80s, and 90s? Yeah, of course. But New York City as a whole is better than the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But I think when you look at it from 10 years ago, no, it's much worse than it was 10 years ago.
Well, first of all, Juju thinks he knows about the Bronx. He's talking about it right now. I worked in the Bronx almost a decade, and I lived in the Bronx for about a decade. So I know the Bronx inside and out. I lived in Northern Bronx. I worked in the South Bronx. I know the Bronx very well. And the Bronx is on fire, figuratively speaking. I know Juju would say it's not on fire. But they did try to gentrify. You have Sobro, which is along the Bruckner, and you have some nice restaurants over there that go into the 3rd Avenue Bridge. You have some nice restaurants, but they were never able to move it up along, going towards the 4-0 precinct, the old 4-0 precinct, because you have the Mitchell house. You have a lot of housing developments. You have a lot of methadone clinics there, a lot of shelters, and that's the problem. So all the services are dumped into that area. So they've been trying to move off the Bruckner Boulevard, but they haven't been able to be successful. It's almost like it's almost like an invisible electric fence. Once you come out from the Mitchell houses and then you go on to Bruckner, and you can see it's almost like a complete dichotomy. It just completely splits. So they've been trying to work on Mont Haven for a long time, but it's not there yet. There are some luxury high-rises coming around 3rd Avenue Bridge, but it doesn't seep into the Bronx itself. It's almost like its own area. It's kind of secluded.
Yeah, so I'm just going to back up a little bit on that. Just pay attention to that part, and then we'll go further. Just pay attention to how many times he flip-flops on the Bronx. It's hysterical. All right, ready? Here we go. Shot at AOC. Did you hear him take a shot at it? He's like, some of them say
Yeah. That was hilarious.
They want bread. They want bread. So
you gotta love it.
What do you think about this portion? Anything here?
I was proud of Kaz that he knew those stats. He had those stats somewhere. He made sure he spit them out so quick. 1,126. Because those stats he knew. He knows the stats of recidivism, but he doesn't know the stats that crime is up. They know what they want to know. They have selective choice of what they want to know, what they educate themselves on. But again, he said it here. He said it with Rosanna Scotto. He said it constantly. He said it on different media platforms. How do they actually fight crime? By going out in the media and trying to change your perception. That's the reality. When you sum everything up, this is the truth.
Yeah. So producer man says the real estate weasels call the South Bronx Sobro. Shit. We still on? We just got copyrighted. Shit. I think
got kicked off.
Yeah, I think so. I think we just got kicked off.
That's all right. We made it this far.
Yeah. All right. Well, end the story. Let's just get this off the screen because that's gone. But he says the real estate weasels called the South Bronx Sobro. Sobro is actually isn't that our friend's new restaurant, Sobro Gardens? Isn't that what
Jimmy Rodriguez?
Yeah. So, but I mean, all in all, what do you think about what's happening and what they're saying?
Gaslighting 101. That's a theme of this administration. That's a theme of this police department. I think Dr. Phil is a pretty smart guy. I think he's playing the game. Like, oh, wow, that's bad. Okay. Now, I would hope that Dr. Phil is doing his homework, that actually to back up and to see if he can solidify the statements that they're making, or if he's taking it on its surface. We don't know. Because John Shell's telling him, we're having these pissing matches because we're supporting the police department. And then Eric Adams is backing us because emotions are high, because that the cops are being attacked, while simultaneously we suffered the death of a detective from the New York City Police Department. Yes, we did suffer the death of a New York City Police Department, but the attacks were on the upper echelon of the police department. Not attacks, it was just criticism. And the egomaniacs that John Shell and Kaz Daughtry are, that's what led to these pissing matches. It was protecting their egos, not the rank and file. And Eric Adams was not protecting the rank and file. He was protecting John Shell. He even said he likes his style. That's what this was about. It wasn't about the police department, rank and file, boots on the ground, general population. He could care less about them. It was about them too.
Yeah, so, all right. So we got shut down on YouTube for about a minute. We're back up. We got shut down on Twitter. We had no volume for about a minute. We're back up. So thank you to John Shell and Kaz Daughtry for reporting the copyright violation. I guess they didn't like that we were talking about it, but we'll still talk about it anyway. So in the future, in your next episode on Dr. Phil, I'm just going to write it all down, and then we're going to talk about it anyway. So, and I'll make memes to present actually what happened in that video, so that we could talk it through. But yeah, so Dr. Phil, you're a loser too. So that's it. Absolutely. So we're back up on all of those things. But yeah, I agree with you. This is all gaslighting. This is the perception versus reality. This is the NYPD fighting your perception, trying to win your perception over, because like he continuously said through this, we're fighting to control that narrative. That is not the job of the police department. The job of the police department is to fight crime and not worry about it, right? It's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who says how the strong man stumbled, or how the man could have done, the doer of deeds could have done them better, right? But in today's arena, in today's New York City, in Eric Adams' world, it actually is the critic who counts, because they're solely focused on the critic. It's disgusting.
I gotta laugh. Chris Arnold says, looks like it's more memes. Absolutely. You know it. The memes make themselves. It's just in time for us to make them. I think it's hilarious. First of all, we went down, but I think it was worth it. I think it was worth it putting out that information and actually giving our spin and giving our criticism to show John Shell and Kaz Daughtry. I was impressed with Kaz Daughtry knowing those numbers. Obviously, he rehearsed to make sure he knew those numbers, and he knew that question was coming. So that was also, I could tell. So those questions by Dr. Phil were obviously rehearsed, because Kaz Daughtry knew those numbers like the back of his hand. Again, the whole thing is about this idea of recidivism. It's quite interesting to me when they say we don't have a crime problem, we have a recidivist problem. But these recidivists are out there committing crime to become recidivists. Again, changing their perception, manipulating words. This is word salad, right? Just John Shell loves to do word salad. It's not a raid, The guy's not in his underwear. He's not necessarily, up in the morning. Well, crime's not really up. It's your perception. You feel it's up, but it's not really up. Well, I can tell you what, crime is up. Sam Antar shows the numbers constantly. But again, the numbers are so high, they're so inflated since pre-pandemic levels, that any decrease that they get in a period of time is normal. It's going to go along with this wave. But again, if crime is coming down for a portion and you're substantially up since 2019, crime is still up. And that's what they should be telling the public. We have crime substantially up. Here's what got us to this point. We have some dips coming down. We're trying to bring it down. We're trying to have it trending in the right direction. That is CompStat terminology. We would always hear that. Trending in the right direction. But we are still not down. We have a long ways to go. But that's not what they're saying. Perception versus truth. That's the mission of Eric Adams. And John Shell took it to the goal line.
Yeah. Drone Ranger says 30 or 40%. It's important for Chief of Patrol to quote it, but not actually know what the statistic is. Agreed. He shouldn't be talking in, it's around there, 30 to 40%. He should actually know what that number is. I agree. I thought I was with you on that. When I heard him say that, I was like, ooh, Why are you saying that? Just switch topics because I agree. I think, listen, I think we nailed home about what this is. This is all about perception control. This is all about perception management, as Marlon Bethel likes to say. This is exactly what that show was. There will be another one. Obviously, that'll probably come out next year if this one came out this year. John Shell might not even be the chief of patrol by the time it comes out this time. You know, Eric Adams might not be the mayor. So we don't know. Like I was expecting that to be a newer version of it. But yeah, I mean, so perception management, what's the perception? We don't want any criticism. Any criticism of us, we're gonna hand in copyright violations. And I told you guys a while back that our accounts kept getting locked, our Twitter, our Instagram accounts, all that stuff were getting locked for copyright violations. And I actually found out what it was. There was someone by the name of Kaz Daughtry. I don't know if it was the Kaz Daughtry, but I assume it was just based upon his name. And what he did is he went through all of the photos that the NYPD had taken that we had posted about on any of our social media. And he posted and he wrote us up for copyright violations. And it's actually false. It's actually not copyright violations. We're allowed to use public information that comes from the NYPD. Kaz Daughtry is not the owner or a reporter just because he's a deputy commission that he even has the right to do that. And he actually, if it is Kaz Daughtry, he actually opened himself up to personal liability by doing so. But I think more importantly, what it shows, because I could care less and I don't really want to get involved in any more lawsuits. I mean, this is ridiculous at this point. They should have just put everybody back to work. But I think more importantly, it just shows how thin-skinned they are, what they're worried about. They're worried about the critic. They're not worried about the crime. They're not worried about the job. They're not worried about their employees. You know, I think when Dr. Phil asked them about morale, it must help morale that someone's standing up for them. Yeah. Couldn't answer it. You know why? Because he knows morale's in the toilet. And everyone knows it. The police commissioner, the coming-in police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, she even acknowledged it her first day on the job. She acknowledged morale's in the toilet, right? When the rest of them, and even John Shelley had no answer for it because they know. If morale's so great, why are people leaving in the amount that they're leaving?
That's what this administration does. Again, the theme of this administration is gaslighting and lying. Just blatant lies to manipulate and change perception. We want to change the perception of the public and the cops on how they feel, on morale, camaraderie of the police department. It's not even in the toilet. It's already been flushed. Morale is at an all-time low. We've never heard, never. And again, I don't want to hear from the PBA that this is about money. This contract was supposed to fix everything. We never hear about, at least before, we never heard about cops leaving with 10 years on the job or 5 years on the job. Everyone was willing to stick it out for 20 years. It wasn't about money. It was about a profession that people loved. There was a time where this job was fun, despite how much money you actually came home with, despite the quality of life conditions, right? Working in some of these precincts, it's quite gritty, right? They're old, they're run down, but that was also part of the pride being an NYPD officer. It's iconic. You're working in, it's kind of gritty. The cars are kind of gritty, but yet it was fun. The morale was high. Morale's at an all-time low. For John Shell to actually tell the public that morale is great is a complete lie. They lie about everything. They lie about morale. They lie about crime. They lie about the public. They lie to save face for themselves and for Eric Adams, because that's the theme of this administration, is just to lie and tell people what they want to hear and don't tell them the truth and to twist the narrative. That's what they're doing. They're controlling the narrative. That's what this is about. That's really what those piss and matches were about. Control the narrative. Control John and Eric. Control Mike Cologne. Control Harry Siegel. Stop them from saying mean things about John Shell and Kaz Daughtry, about the first-grade detective that was promoted by Rocket Fuel, about John Shell, the man in the arena who's the chief of patrol, who should have been terminated from his from his employment in 2008 when he took the life of another by accident. That's the truth.
Yeah, so I think going forward, we won't do any more Dr. Phil videos. I think going forward, what we'll do is we'll just comment on what happened without giving people conjecture. We should be allowed to use the Dr. Phil video because we are commenting on it. It's for educational purposes. It's for commentary. So it actually isn't a violation until someone reports it. So we we know there's some serial reporters in the NYPD that are paid to do that. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to you for making $300,000 a year, and all you got to do is report copyright violations. Losers, but yeah. So we'll change that going forward. I think going forward we'll change it, but we're not going to be suppressed. It'll actually be, I think, worse for them because it's going to be funnier, and we don't need that nonsense. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. So Daniel Penny, bro, Daniel Penny, last day of deliberation. Councilwoman Vicky Palladino, who wasn't a big fan of our memes, she tweeted this yesterday. I attended the closing arguments in the Daniel Penny case today to support Daniel and his legal team. What I witnessed was a travesty, the likes of which I didn't think possible in the United States. I saw a despicable excuse for a DA stand up in front of a court and flagrantly lie for no other reason but to destroy the life of a good man for the crime of protecting a train full of people from a violent, deranged bum. The fact that an angry, disheveled, spiteful woman like that can vindictively wield the law on behalf of our city is an embarrassment to our entire legal system. And it shows how nakedly and unapologetically political the Manhattan DA's office has become. Never forget, Vicky. Never forget your buddy Eric Adams. Me and Alvin Bragg are one and the same when it comes to public safety. Shame on us for allowing our once great city to descend to this level. I'd call it a clown show, but that would imply there's an element of humor in any of this. There isn't. I only pray that the jury can see through the charade and find Daniel Penny innocent. Either way, the damage has been done, and the message is clear. The Manhattan DA will not think twice about destroying the life of anyone who stands up to criminals in self-defense. We are to be ruled by the lawless. Alvin Bragg has got to go, period. What do you think about what Vicky had to say?
I think it's a great statement, despite the fact that we've been attacked by Vicky, by Noble, by Guardian on a full court blitz to try to paint this out by being racist. But I'll give a fair assessment. I think it's a great tweet. I think it's a great post. I think it's very true. What's really unfortunate about this case, in this country, our justice system, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. It's the job of the district attorneys to prove that Daniel Penny is guilty beyond reasonable doubt. It's not the job of the defense for Daniel Penny to prove he's innocent. He's innocent until proven guilty. They have to prove he's guilty. But unfortunately, the appearance of the Daniel Penny case is that he's guilty and the defense has to try to prove he's innocent. And that's a major problem with this case. And we see no longer is our justice system lady blind. No longer is our justice system that sanctity under the U.S. Constitution. It's really unfortunate. It's disgusting. This is the pinnacle case in our country right now. George Floyd was a pinnacle case, but this is the pinnacle case right now in our history. If Daniel Penny is found convicted, for one, you're putting an innocent man in jail. You're putting a U.S. service member, a United States Marine, someone that was a good Samaritan that protected others on that fateful day. Is it sad and tragic that Jordan nearly lost his life? Of course he is. But the help that he needed was not there. The help that he needed to come before he was on the train that day. He had numerous interactions with the police, with the justice system. He was mentally ill. He had already attacked elderly before. He was already a menace on that train, but it was too late that day. The services that he needed should have been before he was on that train. But that day, Daniel Penny stepped in for public safety. And that's exactly what I was saying earlier on this episode. Sometimes the police have to take action, and the services that were there and applied, it's too late. The police have to keep people safe and maintain order. And Daniel Penny stepped in as a good Samaritan that day. Daniel Penny, if found guilty, we're putting an innocent man in jail. And it's pinnacle. It's going to be reflective of what we see going forward. No one else will be a good Samaritan because they will see themselves as the next Daniel Penny.
I agree with you. I mean, like I said, I think it's going to be called the Daniel Penny effect going forward. I think that's what we'll see going forward. I mean, I think people aren't going to step in. You know, Vicky is infuriating to me because she says the right things a lot, but she never does any of them. You know, she supports. You know, she supports all the fired workers. She was against mandates. She supports Daniel Penny. Yet at the same time, she supports all the people that did all this to the fired workers, that implemented the mandates, that still uphold the mandates, and all the people that are going after Daniel Penny and all of the rules and the laws. So, like, Vicky, like, to me, it's like, yeah, you're great. You're great. You're a great Twitter handle. You're a terrible city council person. We agree on Twitter. We disagree on politics. We disagree on how to go about things. I still support Vicky Palladino because, you know, I don't hate people that I disagree with. I just think politically she's a nightmare. I think on Twitter she's a great handle. And, you know, I just think the way that we're going to fix this thing, we're not seeing eye to eye on. It's not going to happen with Eric Adams. It's not going to happen with being silent about all of these issues. It's not going to happen with buddying up with people who are potentially corrupt in the NYPD, people who have proven themselves to be compulsive liars, sit there and lie to the public over and over again. And yeah, just because you get a little bit of stuff in your district and that whole little, what they get? They got some 109. They got the 109 satellite. No, they didn't do that. They didn't do that to give you more cops. You didn't even get more cops. Where'd they pull the cops from? They only did that because the academy got vandalized, Vicky. That's all they did. They're just trying to keep the academy from getting vandalized again. Had nothing to do. They stole from Peter to pay Paul, and everybody knows it. There's not more cops in your district. They just shuffle them around. It's just a numbers game. So I think when we look at that, it's you know, and then the fact that she did attack us, the fact that she openly said that our memes are racist when in fact they're not. And disregarded the fact of the racist statements that they were made because of, you know, I just can't forget things like that.
Think our brother Patrick Donahue is spot on right here. Multiple subway riders helped restrain the EDP? Question mark. Only Daniel Penny was arrested, yet multiple cops in Minnesota were arrested for the George Floyd incident. I think Patrick Donahue is spot on. John, you and I have talked about it numerous times on this podcast. Daniel Penny, if convicted, was not acting alone. Why is Daniel Penny facing trial by himself? Why is Daniel Penny only one on trial? Daniel Penny was not the only one to take action. Daniel Penny physically had his hands on the adversary, Jordan Neely, but he was also assisted by two other Good Samaritans that helped Daniel Penny to help the people on the train get to public safety. Where are those two other people? Why is it only Daniel Penny fighting for his life? That's a fantastic question, Patrick Donahue. Spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's something else, New York. This guy's front runner for the governor right now to run for governor off the Republican ticket. The dude is dumb. I'm sorry. If New York is going to vote for this kid, you get everything you deserve. First of all, he touts himself as the most bipartisan member of Congress. So he's a rhino. He votes with the Democrats often on issues that he shouldn't vote with them on. He is like the rest of them where they're solely focused on Israel. It's like, dude, you live in New York. You live in America. Like, you're a representative for America. He funds the Ukraine consistently. He touts himself about how much money he got to the Ukraine. Dude's out of his mind. Mike
Chuck
Lawler,
Schumer is
and
playing
he is the front runner for governor. So I just want to talk about him for 1 minute. Let's play his video.
Chuck Schumer is playing a dangerous political game with the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. He's risking its final passage because he doesn't want to put his senators on record voting for or against it. It's outrageous and unacceptable. The Anti-Semitism Awareness Act passed the House by an overwhelming bipartisan margin in May. But even after Election Day, Senator Schumer refuses to bring it for an up or down vote. Enough already. It's time to stop playing politics with our children's safety. It's time to rein in the disgraceful anti-Semitism that has resulted in a 72% increase among Jewish students feeling unwelcome on their campuses. It's time to end the intimidation and the violence against Jewish students. Senator, pass the damn bill. Chuck Schumer is playing.
So this is the front runner. Do you read masculinity coming off of him, Eric?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He looks like a great version of a masculine conservative Republican that we need in New York State. Absolutely. Again, John, you called it. He's a definite rhino. If anything, he's more. If he comes off to me as more progressive than conservative, his appearance alone. But I've heard some grumblings about him. Not impressed at all. He appears to me he's far more Democrat than Republican. He's on a Republican ticket, but you might as well paint him as a Democrat.
Yeah, so he's the front runner. So let's talk about his anti-Semitism bill a little bit. And I think this is the problem in politics, is that there's low information floating out there. People don't read these bills. And it's a big problem. So this bill, although it sounds like a great name, anti-Semitism bill, right? Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2023, right? It sounds like it's something important. It sounds like it's something good. So I retweeted this the other day about it because I just don't think anyone's talking about this, and I don't know why. So Mike's bill, titled HR 6090, Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2023, states, to provide consideration of a definition of anti-Semitism set forth before the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance for the enforcement of the federal anti-discrimination laws concerning education programs or activities and for other purpose. This bill does not define anti-Semitism. It leaves it up to a non-elected international organization to define anti-Semitism. How does the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance define anti-Semitism? Below is one example. Using symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism. Examples: claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel to characterize Israel or Israelis. And I put the source there, which is the Holocaust Remembrance Museum. The example used, claims of Jews killing Jesus, can be found numerous times throughout the New Testament, as well in many images or pieces of art depicting scripture written in the New Testament. The New Testament is the foundational scripture of the Christian faith. Mike is pushing for legislation that not only defines the New Testament as anti-Semitism, but also, because the bill fails at defining anti-Semitism, it gives the authority to a non-elected international organization to change the definition at any time, therefore circumventing how laws are made in this country. I don't believe Mike even realizes what he's doing or is fighting for. Like most politicians, what they want is to give the appearance that they did or accomplished something when an issue arises. Anti-Semitism has been on the rise in this country in recent years, and instead of calling for the enforcement of the laws we already have on the books by both law enforcement and the criminal justice system, he instead moved to draft a piece of legislation that, in my opinion, is one of the most low-resolution thinking bills I have read in 24. On top of that, I also don't believe it will do anything to combat anti-Semitism. How anyone, Republican or Democrat, is willing to sign this bill into law is beyond me. It makes me wonder if anyone who signed this bill into law actually read it, questioned its legality, and contemplated the ramifications of it. It's not the title of the legislation that matters. It's what's written inside of it that does. What do you think about this act? What do you think about what I just said? It literally takes the foundation of the New Testament and defines it as anti-Semitism, and we left it up to an international organization to do it. This is the bill that Mike drafted. This is the Republican frontrunner currently for governor in New York.
John, I remember when you and I started to talk about this, when this actually started to commence, and we both said the same thing, and I agree. I think spot on. I think you nailed it here. There's already laws in place to actually combat anti-Semitism, to actually combat hate crimes. We have to utilize the laws that are in place right now. This is complete manipulation. I think this is a problem with distorting the justice system right now. Listen, I'm telling you right now, as someone who's Jewish, I think that this is absolutely ridiculous. Spot on. We have laws in place to actually combat this. We're completely distort the justice system with fancy labels and fancy titles, but we're not getting to the meat of actually what's in there, and we're actually distorting. We need actually to interpret what anti-Semitism is. We already have the interpretation. We already know what it is. Again, I think it was spot on. I think this is absolutely ridiculous, but it just shows how ineffective this Republican ticket is. And I tell you right now, I pray that this doesn't win. But again, what are you left with? It's almost like it's done by design. Let's put in this soft Republican so that the Democrat wins. And that's what it appears to be.
Yeah, I just can't believe that this dude is even pushing this. That anyone's like, this isn't even a talking point. This is ridiculous. So let's give power to an international organization so they can just go on their website and change the definition of anti-Semitism to anything they like and basically outlaw anything they want. And Mike is pushing to outlaw the New Testament. You had Rep. Anthony D'Esposito pushing for this bill. I'm like, dude, you're Catholic. This is the foundation of your religion. You understand that, right? You understand you're defining the New Testament as anti-Semitism. And they're both like, well, Trump supported it. I'm like, I don't think he did. And if he did, he's an idiot. I don't care. What does that have to do with anything? I'm telling you what your bill says in it. The bill sounds great. But that's not what it does. And it's not going to alleviate anti-Semitism at all. If anything, it might create it. You know, so dumb. But this is like, the only reason I point it out is because this is traditionally how legislation is passed in politics. We have so many laws. We don't need to keep doing this. We don't need to make these dumb bills, but this is what they do in response to things so that they could say they've accomplished something. When in reality, he's done harm. He's done no good. He's defining the New Testament as anti-Semitism, and he's circumventing our legislation process and giving authority to an international organization. It makes absolutely no sense. So dumb. But it's like, don't focus on that bill because that's every bill. That's the majority of bills. This is how it works. This is what these people are doing. This is what politicians are doing. And clearly it's both sides of the aisle. It's not just the Democrats. It's all of them.
I'll tell you why it's also stupid. So growing up Jewish, it's always been this debate with people like, why do you always say you're Jewish? That's your religion. That's not your ethnicity. And I said, well, I understand what you're saying, but Jewish heritage, people identify themselves as Jewish. So it is a religion, but it's more than that. It's a culture. It's a community, right? After the Holocaust, 6 million Jews lost their lives. There's only a small sect of Jews left in the world. It's not the same population that it once. So people identify as Jewish. So it's not just a religion. It's also a culture. It's a heritage, right? Some people say, well, where is the Jew land, right? There's no actual Jewish land, right? You have Israel, which is, I have family from, but you have Jews all over Eastern Europe. You have Jews from the Middle East. There's Jews all over. Believe it or not, you even have some Jews in Italy. So there's Jews everywhere. But it's more of a culture. It's a heritage, and Jewish people see it as an ethnic group, even though there's not an actual Jewish land, but there's specific Jewish pockets. Again, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. So it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't necessarily have to be based on religion to be anti-Semitism. I think they create more problems here. Just as if something is not broken, don't fix it. Utilize the laws and utilize common sense. Law is supposed to be based on common sense. This is not common sense.
Yeah. So, and then, we're going on a while now. We're going on hour 43. But before we wrap up, I think we need to look at how our tax money is being utilized and how the NYPD is currently providing public safety in New York City. This is coming out by way of the NYPD's Community Affairs Unit. Are we ready? All right, everybody, get your popcorn ready. Here we go. I haven't watched this. I don't know what it is. Let's see. Well, that's another copyright strike.
Kaz is going to pull us down again. Did we go off?
No.
Actually, honestly, it's not that bad compared to some videos I seen by the NYPD. That wasn't that bad. It was all right, not too bad.
So you think people deserve to get paid money to do this? The NYPD?
No. I'm just saying.
How much money do you think? Let's just be serious for a second. How many hours do you think was spent on this video? And how much money do you think it cost taxpayers to produce this video? This was a 1 minute and 16-second video.
Well, it's interesting you say that, right? So if there's a company doing an ad, right, they have 30-second ads, a minute ad. If it's a minute ad, these things are quite expensive, right? Could be maybe close to $1 million an actual episode. I think this costs a lot of money. I'm just laughing because I think it's actually better than some of the horrible NYPD skits I've seen. But I do think it's absolutely ridiculous that this is what we have our cops doing. Crime is up. We have a diminished police department. We have the omnipresence out there right now suffering. Cops are making a lieutenant is making over $400,000 a year because of a diminished police department. There's so much overtime going around. There's cops that are out there exhausted, boots on the ground, working day in, day out, and then you have these cops playing dress up. I think I'm just laughing because it's actually better than some of the other videos, but I think this is ridiculous. The amount of money being spent, the taxpayer money being funded, while other people are out there working so much overtime because this is the balance. Crime is up, but we have time to make videos like this. Oh, it's laughable. That's why I'm laughing. It's so silly. But this is the NYPD right now. This is what's more important to them. There's some CO out there right now, the chief or whoever, the chief of community affairs, that thought this is the most important thing right now. This is what cops should be doing.
Well, that's it right there. Chief Victoria Perry. She's making big money. This kid's probably a first grade detective standing next to her. He's probably making $300K a year. I'm going to say the production of this video with the creation of the logo, well into six figures. It cost New York City to produce, the multiple takes, the multiple man hours, the production of it. I'm going to say it cost well into six figures to produce this video. And honestly, I don't think it's good at all. I don't even know what this has to do with Christmas or anything. Or I don't know what this does for the youth. I don't know what this does for the community. I'm completely confused by this whole thing. It's not informative. It's not funny. It's not good. It doesn't build bonds. It doesn't. I think anyone that's watching this is going to say, what did I just watch? What did I just waste 1 minute and 16 seconds of my life for? I mean, I'm not saying it just because I want to knock the NYPD. I'm literally saying it. I don't understand the point of it. What's going on? Like, what are they moving on this pallet? Is this supposed to be toys? What does this have to do with Christmas? What does Deadpool have to do with Christmas? What does this have to do with community relations? I don't understand. I mean, so if maybe we could get when the TV series, they do like an after the show, like they have a together. I'd like to hear the production comments on this, on what this is supposed to represent. Because I'm sitting here saying, I have no idea what I just watched. I don't.
Well, it's funny you say that. I know he was mentioning the sleigh ride, but I don't even know. Is this actually supposed to be pointed and directed for Christmas? I'm just laughing. I just think it's funny because the NYPD comes up with these stupid videos. It's better than some of the dumb ones the other dumb ones they had, but they're all stupid. I don't even know why we're doing this. I think just the fact that we're spending money on this is all things ridiculous. With the NYPD, go focus on crime. But again, it goes back to the leadership. I mean, Kaz Daughtry and John Shell have set the tone that you should be out in the media And that's how we change the perception versus truth. If we have the time to go out and make funny skits, crime must be pretty good. The police department must be doing well. We must be pretty safe. If we have the time out to, I don't know, is this for kids? Because I thought Deadpool was more like like into sex when it comes to characters. So I don't know if this is really directed toward kids. I don't get it, to be honest. I just think it's funny because it's stupid.
So M. Rob keeps saying to say fair use. So I'm gonna say that we have fair use to use Dr. Phil stuff because we were commenting over it. We weren't playing it to try to get credit of it. But whatever. So what? This episode doesn't get monetized. We don't care. It's at the end of the day, it is what it is. We'll be back tomorrow. We learn, we grow from each one. But I honestly, I just want to play it one more time. Do you mind if I play this one more time? I really, let's just watch it and tell me what the point of it is. Like, what are they doing? Like, what's Deadpool doing? What are they doing? Like, they said there's a sleigh ride, but I didn't see any sleigh. Like, I just want to watch this one more time. This episode's already not monetized. So let's just burn it down. Let's get it.
just go down.
Let's get our money's worth of it. But honestly, I'd like perspective film critics right here. We're doing fair use here too as well. Like my brother M. Rob says.
That's gonna have to be a disclaimer now. Fair use.
Fair use, baby. But seriously, let's look at this from that standpoint, and then tell me, because I'm really like I'm thinking about it, and I don't understand what it is.
John, these comments are flying in. They're great. Pat Carney says furry cops coming to a town near you.
So and then the use of shoop a doop. What does that song have to do with Christmas? But really, like I want someone to give me a fair perspective. We're movie critics today, people. We're movie critics. What is this movie that we're watching?
Racist memes coming your way. You gotta love it. But seriously, wasn't Deadpool like the guy that's more like into sex and getting women and stuff? I don't know. Is this for kids? I think it's funny because it's stupid. That's why. I mean, out of the videos we've seen, at least this kid might have a career in acting. You know, maybe I don't know what kind of copy it is, but it looks like you might have a career in acting. But it's stupid. But it's funny because it's stupid.
No, I mean, listen, he plays a good Deadpool. I'm not gonna lie. But like, I'm just saying, like, what is it? Like, what's the point of it? You know, they sleigh ride. They're bringing the toys from the truck. Like, what is it? Who paid for this? This is an expensive costume right here. This isn't a cheap costume. This is like a top of the line movie, whatever. Like, did the department pay for that costume? Like, what are we doing?
I actually had the same question. I was thinking the same thing. That doesn't look like, like a $9.99 costume you get at Spirit Halloween. That actually looks like a pretty expensive costume. I don't know, man. They said sleigh ride. So are there sleighs inside those pallets? I don't know. The whole thing's stupid. I'm just laughing because it's stupid. This is what the NYPD does. If you remember, when we started this podcast, I said, John, the most important thing in the police department right now is not fighting crime. It's who's got the best Twitter page. Who's got the best Twitter page in a command is the most important thing to a CO right now. I seen Julian Morrill spend hours on dressing up on the precinct. It was breast cancer awareness. The whole place was pink to the point it looked like a nursery. Now, I support breast cancer awareness. I'm a huge advocate. But to the point where the precinct was starting to look like a nursery, it was just out of control. And then it was Domestic Violence Month. And the color to support victims of domestic violence is purple. And then the precinct looks like this big, giant purple Barney. It's just out of control. I mean, how far do we need to go? Go ahead, put some stuff up, but not to the point that we get completely distracted and we're not doing police work. It's funny to a point. But again, you're right. How much money are they actually spending? And you said six figures. I think that this has cost probably $1 million when you actually get the fact how many cops it took, how many takes, how much preparation, what did this actually cost to run this ad? I think we're getting close to $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, and Mike Freed says, "Come on, guys, this has been going on for years in the department. Have to give them a pass for giving out gifts. It's been a great thing. I'm not knocking them for giving out gifts. I think that's, I think it's a nice thing that Community Affairs does. I don't even really mind the video production so much. If it relates to kids, if it relates to community building, I'm just saying, I really don't understand the point of this video. It's very confusing. I don't know what Deadpool has to do with Christmas. Maybe I missed it. I never really watched the movie. So maybe it is a Christmas movie like Die Hard or Goodfellas. People say those are Christmas movies. I don't know why people say that Christmas movies, but they do. I guess there's scenes in Christmas. So I'm not sure if the same's true for Deadpool. I know who he is. I just never really watched the movie. I don't know how that song's related to Christmas. I just really don't understand the point of the video. I mean, that's really what I'm knocking. I'm saying I don't get it. What is it? Like, what is it supposed to be doing? To me, it appears to be a huge waste of money. I don't know if it's $1 million, but I mean, it's definitely a lot of money. It's definitely a lot of money. However it turns out, if it turns out that we spent $10,000 on this, why? Why did we spend $10,000 on it? If it turns out we spent $100,000 on this, why? Why did we? I mean, it just gets worse every dollar that's spent on this. And again, we're being told they need more cops, right? The police commissioner is sitting there telling us, "Oh, well, I'm getting a gift that I'm going to get 1,600 more cops." How many cops did it take to make this video? How much time was used? I just think, listen, I have no problem with building community relations, but this is, I just think it's ridiculous. And then JF Dot says the cost to license a song for use can be 6 figures on its own. And if they did that, which I don't know, man, you never know today. You never know. They could have got permission too. They could have got permission. I don't know. I really don't understand it.
This reminds me, John, one time I gotta laugh. Any of my cops on the Lower East Side that worked on my crime team, if they're watching this, they remember years ago working at PSA 4 on the Lower East Side, we had a parking lot. You been to PSA 4 before? They actually have a parking lot there.
Yeah.
So I don't forget, we used to drive around, but towards the end of the night, on the way back, sometimes we would play music in the community and we would put it on the mic. And everybody loved it. They used to laugh. We would laugh. The community loved it. They would get a kick out of it. Sometimes they're like, "What song are you guys going to play tonight?" But I never forget, for some reason, we put on Power Rangers. And some guy, I guess he got all excited, got dressed up, and he showed up in the parking garage in his Power Ranger outfit. Man, it was hysterical. But and we were taking pictures with him. So that would have been funny. That would have been a natural video. But I don't know what Deadpool's all about. I just don't know how Deadpool associates to kids. JF Dot, shout out to you. Coffee and donuts on the podcast, $9.99. JF Dot always put his hand in. Thank you so much. The cost to license a song for use can be 6 figures on its own. Wow. The cost to license a song for use can be 6 figures on its own. Substantial. You're absolutely right. Thank you, brother.
Yeah. Mike Freed says about the uniform. They have character rides with the cops. It's the same when they have them do it at the hospitals. That's true. This could be reutilized. I get that. That's true. When you look at that, they do character rides with the kids. I could see that 100%. I really just don't get the point of the video. I mean, that's it. It's just, to me, it's a dumb video. It makes no sense. I don't know how this relates to Christmas or a sleigh ride. The music is crazy. TC says Twitter killed the job. Patty says that's the decline of culture in America: children, comic books, sequel films, and mostly trash music. I listen. I like what's their names, whatever they are, who sings the song. It just doesn't relate. It just doesn't relate. You guys follow our social media with the memes. The music we put with the memes, they make total sense. They make total Sense. This made no sense to me. I thought this was hysterical. Hysterical. That was a good find without watching it. It was absolutely hysterical.
These guys are ripping on me right now. Drum Ranger John Ranger and Tom are ripping on me. This is great. John Ranger says, John read that out already. Eric, pay attention, LOL. And then Tom said, Eric, is your feed delayed again? John already read that. Dude, I start this podcast at 5 a.m. Man, by the time we're done with this podcast, most people haven't even awakened yet. So, yeah, sometimes you don't see it. But, hey, listen, we'll read it twice. All good.
So for those of you that don't follow us on The Finest Unfiltered, at The Finest Unfiltered on Instagram and TikTok, at The Finest Cast on X. I mean, I highly suggest you do. I think Instagram's the most impactful one because it lets you play the music alongside of it. So this is Eric Adams' Christmas present. Here's Eric Adams in his Make America Great Again Santa hat. All I Want for Christmas is a Pardon, Santa, with Donald Trump as the Santa. And then we coupled this with the music by Mariah Carey. All I Want for Christmas is You. I think, it makes sense. This is a Christmas meme. Community affairs can't come up with this. You can't do Christmas memes. Start with doing a sleigh ride. Let's make it around a sleigh. Let's play Christmas music. Put Deadpool in a Santa hat. Do something. I mean, where's the production effort here, people? Come on.
Wow, the Deadpool memes are coming.
That's a Christmas meme. This is a Christmas meme. I'll give you another one that's a Christmas meme, and it might not really be a Christmas. Well, actually, I got a Hanukkah meme too. Hold on, let's get the Hanukkah meme.
Yeah, let's play the Hanukkah one. That was great.
Here's Jessica Tish. All I want for Hanukkah is no riots at my family business. And guess who's Santa? The Reverend Al Sharpton. And then this one came out yesterday. This one was pretty funny. I like this one the best. Eric Adams as Hunter Biden. So funny. Too funny. But yeah. So those of you that aren't following us, make sure you're checking us out. Those the memes are impactful. They're funny. They're humorous. They're not meant to offend anybody. If you're offended by it, too bad. Snake Plissken says, Die Hard, my favorite Christmas movie. Logic's Finest. Deadpool isn't for kids, though he's a super violent vigilante that kills criminal in vicious ways. Definitely not kid friendly. Yeah, I mean, anything else before we get out of here?
I just want to say one thing to Eric. What's that?
Bronx Tale? Bronx Tale's not a Christmas movie. Get out of here.
Bronx Tale? No.
I never heard that.
I think people associate Christmas movies because they come out during Christmas time, right? You always watch Rocky IV during Christmas time. What else is Die Hard? Yeah, Christmas movie. That's a Christmas movie. But those movies always come out around Christmas. That's why. But I got one question to Eric Adams. Who's your daddy? That's all I want to know right now. Who's your daddy?
So funny.
I bet he wishes it was Biden.
Urban Taunt says the song speaks to the urban youth. That song came out when I was 11. That doesn't speak to the youth. It might speak. It speaks to kids in the 90s that grew up in the 90s.
What youth? What are you talking
80s
about?
babies. 80s babies know that song. These kids don't even know what that is.
It's a great song. Tom said Rocky V. Yeah, Rocky V comes out because that's the worst Rocky, by the way. I mean, we watch it but that was the worst one. Hanukkah Harry. Nope. Spot on.
Drone Ranger, yo, I'm the 7th CO, and let me show you how my NCOs flow. Worst rap of all time. Some things cops shouldn't do. Some cops can rap, but those guys couldn't.
What was that guys. One? That other guy, that was great. My name is, what was it? Officer Crumb?
I don't even know. These things are terrible. Chris Arnold says someone call Salt and Pepper's attorney ASAP. Hit him with a copyright. Don't worry, that already happened. Don't even worry about it. You guys can do it. Just pile it on.
Lethal Weapon. Someone put Lethal Weapon Christmas movie. Yeah. That's an awesome movie, by the way. Lethal Weapon. That's probably the end of Lethal Weapon. That's like the best fight scene in a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was
funny.
Actually, if you watch Lethal Weapon, that was, I think, when did Lethal Weapon air? That was what, 1987?
I don't know.
But if you watch Lethal Weapon, if anybody's into jiu-jitsu, it's actually the first time they put jiu-jitsu in an American movie. Mel Gibson puts, what's his name again? What's his name? The other actor. If you remember. But he puts him into a triangle. If you watch the end of the scene, how he beats him in the fight, he puts him in a triangle. So it's pretty interesting. So watch that. It's actually one of the first American movies where you see a jiu-jitsu move actually applied. And this was the 80s. So pretty cool. What was his name again?
I don't know.
Gary Busey. That's it. Gary Busey. Awesome. Yeah, check it out. Watch the end of that movie. Like, oh, wow. I never even noticed that. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if I read this one out yet. Tom, $1.99, coffee and donuts. Juju reminds me of Rocky V and his headaches. Well, I think Juju's getting a headache because he's tired of watching this. But hey, he finally got a copyright. He copyright. That's why they really monitor this podcast. How can we shut them down? Copyright. Almost done. But Gary Busey, yeah. The end of Lethal Weapon by far is one of the best fight scenes in the movie. Awesome. Check it out.
All right. Well, shout out to you, Juju, for getting paid to watch this. You're the real MVP here, my friend. I think that's about it, right? It's enough for today. We went 2 hours, 6 minutes. Appreciate everybody for tuning in today. Sorry for those of you on YouTube. I don't think you're going to be able to rewatch this at all. It is what it is. Most of it's blanked out, but go over to, even though Dr. Phil doesn't have no love for the finest Unfiltered, go over to Dr. Phil. Check out that thing. I think all in all, overall analysis, I think it's a good thing. I think the NYPD should be out there in the media, but I agree with you, Eric. I think it should be the rank and file. I have no problem with the upper echelon narrating it. I think overall, I think they did a pretty decent job. They did a much better job than the producers of the Christmas skit. That'll tell you.
I think it's great. Listen, I think we nailed it here. I think we definitely went over some good issues. We got shut down, but it was worth it. This is not going to get monetized, but that's not what this is about. Just shows you that's not what we care about. This is the mission. Get out the information, give our opinions, give our anecdotal experience. And if people don't like it, turn it down. If they want to shut us down, we'll find a way to keep going. Crazy 10-7. Shout out to you, Coffee and Donuts, $4.99. Here's money before you go. Thank you. But before we go, because I love movies, and I always refer life to movies. I always talk about that. So for Christmas movies, what's your favorite movie? What's a movie any movie that you could watch over and over, and you probably know all the words, and you never get sick of it? If anybody in the chat wants to put up your movie, what's your number one movie before we go?
Christmas or what?
Any movie. Not just since we're talking about movies. What's your favorite movie in life that you can watch over and over, you know the words to, and you never get sick of it?
I don't know that I know the words to it, but my favorite movie is Godfather 2. And my favorite Christmas movie is It's a Wonderful Life.
That's a good movie. My favorite movie is The Warriors. I can't get enough of it. I know every word, every scene. I watch it 1,000 times, maybe even more. But my Drone Ranger put My Cousin Vinny, another great movie. I know all the lines. That movie's hysterical. I don't care how many times you watch it. Top Gun has one of the best opening theme songs. Awesome. But shout out to our friends and listeners.
Wait, but that was the scene, the volleyball scene is when Tom knew he wasn't like all the other boys. When they
It was the right t-shirt. Well, listen, shout out friends and listeners to the podcast. Oh, somebody put Blazing Saddles. That's hysterical, by the way. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Shawshank Redemption. That is by far one of the best movies ever. Underrated, amazing movie, great story. Shout out everybody. Listen, take care. We'll see you tomorrow morning. And hey, let us know tomorrow morning if you think of a movie you like. Just put it up in the chat. All right, brother. Take care.
March of the Wooden Soldiers, Godfather. I love it all. Shawshank, Juju's. What was Juju? Home Alone. Home Alone is good. That's a Christmas movie.
I thought Juju would like Speed.
Beverly Hills Cop, Warriors, Batman with Michael Keaton. All right, nice. All right,
wait. Which is the best Batman? That's a good one. Who's the best Batman?
Oh, I think the dude Bale, Christian Bale.
Christian Bale? Yep.
Yeah, I think those movies were sick. I think because of the production of it, I thought those things were really well thought out. Like the motorcycle, how the tires flip on the, like they go sideways. The motorcycle can go sideways.
It was like Kaz Daughtry, the best Batman.
What was that meme? Chris Arnold said he said the Adam Santa meme. We got to do that actually. Meme of the year. We should do that. He said Adam Santa meme. begging Santa for a pardon, and the Kazman and what was it? The Kazman and I forget what it was. But those are the front runners for his favorite memes of the year.
That was outstanding. Oh, we gotta get Patrick Donahue before we leave. We might as well keep this going. $9.99, more coffee and donuts. Donation for the Vault-inspired costumes for the next department video. If you know, you know. Yeah, the Vault. That would be some S&M stuff for sure.
You guys are sick. You guys, nuts. But yeah, all right. So I think we wrap it up. Producer man John Wick. I thought it was. I never really got into the Wick ones, but I watched them. But yeah, I think I just love Godfather. I think it's such a well thought out movie. There's so many different layers to that movie if you watch it. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. So
Godfather, outstanding, and it's filmed in Staten Island, right? So
a lot of it's filmed in. Drone Ranger says mine is Crumbs. You know what? That is going to be my favorite movie. That's going to be, and I'll tell you, the music's going to make sense. The music is going to make sense with the scenes. I'm telling you. We're gonna put Scorsese to shame. I'm telling you. VS Ventura says Aliens or The Thing. Piss off YouTube. Goodfellas. All right, Goodfellas is a good one.
Goodfellas is good. I wouldn't say it's Donnie Brasco is awesome. I wouldn't say Goodfellas is the best movie, but it's a great entertaining movie. Donnie Brasco is an awesome movie. Godfather 2 is probably even better than the first one. I would say.
Yeah. I thought we were going to get off, but let's just talk about that for 1 second.
I thought so too, but
I got a question because you told me the other day that you were going to see Gladiator 2, right?
Yeah, I did.
You were going to see Gladiator 2, and I think I said to you at the time, and I don't even know if I said it, but I was thinking it. I don't know a sequel that I ever was like, that movie was better than the original one, other than Godfather 2. How was the sequel to the Gladiators? And do you know any movie that the sequel was better than the original one?
That's a good question. With all the special effects were amazing. It doesn't even come close to the first one. It was okay. It was good, but not memorable like the first one. It was all right. It was worth watching, a one-time thing, but not even nearly as good as part one. I can't think, when it comes to a sequel being better than the first one, I think Godfather 2 is 100%. I'm trying to think. Arguably, maybe I don't know. I think Rocky is the best Rocky. Rocky 2, maybe? I don't know. And that's a tough one, man. Now you got me thinking when it comes to sequels.
Listen, I love the Rockies, but my favorite one's the first one. I love that. I love that movie. I love it. I love it because he doesn't win. I love it. It's such a well thought out. He's the hero. He wins because he goes the distance, not because he wins. That's so. Blade 2, Terminator 2, Home Alone 2, maybe. I mean, but drama, theatric. I'm gonna say there's nobody than Empire Strikes Back. For me, it's solely Godfather 2.
Logic's put that's a good argument. Empire Strikes Back versus Star Wars. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Juju says Snatch. Guy Ritchie is a great movie. That's an awesome movie. Ever watched Snatch?
A great movie.
Snatch is a great movie. 100%.
I'm glad Juju's actually weighing in with us. That's outstanding. But yeah, Snatch is great. And when Brad Pitt puts on that accent, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a great movie.
That's a good movie. Guy Ritchie is pretty wild, man. You watch for those of you that haven't watched Guy Ritchie on Joe Rogan, and he breaks down the basis of narrative and story. One of the wildest segments I ever listened to. It's about 10 minutes of that podcast, of the Rogan podcast with Guy Ritchie, and he breaks down the story of narrative. And he basically relates every story to one story in the Bible, the prodigal son. It was the wildest explanation I've ever heard. And he basically gives the essence of narrative. Every story that's worth telling the story has the hero story in it. and the hero story for him is the prodigal son, which is it's a wild take. That's one of my favorite Joe Rogan interviews. I have a couple. I like when Graham Hancock came on, all that, but like that one in particular with Guy Ritchie, because I never even knew how deep you have to think to be a movie producer or anything like that. And then I was like, wow. And he basically says, like, a good movie is layered. You could watch the movie and just be happy with what you're seeing on the screen. But a real movie has multi layers to it, where there's so many different aspects at play under the layers that, you know, you enjoy them for so many different reasons other than just that it's on the face of it, it's funny, or you like the character, or you like the hero story. So it's pretty wild, man. It's a great interview. I definitely recommend checking that out. I
think Juju should drop some coffee and donuts if Juju is actually behind this copyright infringement. Getting us shut down here. But yeah, dude, I love movies. I would say my second favorite movie is Scarface. Number one is The Warriors. Scarface is my second. I love it. Just classic movies, no sequels, not much budget. These are low budget movies that are just awesome. Outstanding movies, good actors, and you know, it's interesting when people talk about the different movies. I think you can learn a lot about a person when you find out what kind of movies they like. It's quite interesting. So now, be honest, is there any chick flicks you like before we get out of here?
I watched one with my wife that I was like I loved. It was recent. It was the hell was the name of that movie? Where the Crawdads Are? Where the Crawdads Sing? Something like that. It was a great movie, dude. Great, definitely a chick movie. It reminded me Where the Crawdads. Watch that movie. That was the best movie I've watched in like the last few years, I think. And I don't watch a lot of movies, but that was a multi-layered story. Sal Greco, The Casino. Absolutely, Casino is a great movie. But again, when Casino, Goodfellas, I think those movies, Bronx Tale, I think if you take the music out of those movies, it kind of, or you take the music and the narration away from those movies, they wouldn't be nearly as good. They wouldn't be nearly as good movies. I mean, I think they're great movies because I think they're great stories because they're real stories. They're not fake. You know, I mean, they're definitely glamorized, like they glamorize stories. Then they glamorize the mob and all that. But the music and the narration, Scorsese's production of those movies it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Oh, and I got to put up there the Departed. That's definitely one of the best movies ever. The Departed is up there.
You know, I'll tell you, I wouldn't go with one of the best movies ever, but I like The Departed. And I'll tell you, every time I watch The Departed, I like it more and more. I noticed something. There's something funny about it that I didn't notice the first time. It was a very good movie. I wouldn't go best movies ever. If you want to say cop movies, I could go. I'll go with you on there. I wouldn't say best drama ever, but if you want to say cop movies, I'll say yeah, Departed's up there.
Oh, that was great. I agree with you. Every time you watch it, like there's another layer that you missed. Like, I didn't see that. But yeah, listen, I think this is great. Maybe one day we'll just have a movie day, just go over movies. Be a fun Friday.
I think we should do some movie reviews because
I love it.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I'd love to start getting into some other stuff. It's enough beating up Shell and Cavs. They're too easy.
Then when we get bored, we can always go back to
They're always going to be there, man. So. All right, everybody. All right, let's run, ladies, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. So you want to end us out?
Yeah, listen, thank you, everyone. Thanks for the input. Thanks for actually putting up the movies that you're interested in. It's nice to also get to know people on a personal level. So shout out to you. We'll see you tomorrow morning, midweek. So take care. See you soon.
All right. Later, people.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888-901-BLUE. That's 888-901-BLUE.